Okay, so this is for students who received a deferral result and are interested in learning about what the next steps for that are. Maybe you've heard that you should be sending a deferral letter, a deferral update, loci, a letter of continued interest. They're all kind of the same thing. First thing I want to note is that every school handles deferrals differently or in their own way. Some schools will say, don't send us anything, just update your transcript. Sorry about that. And then the other type of things I've seen is they literally give you a link from the deferral email, and you go into a portal and they give like text fields of things to answer. I know that schools like MIT will have like a particular process to that. They even gave it a name. I forgot what it was. But most of them are going to fall under this general sense of you need to provide updates that go beyond just your grades. Maybe updates to new achievements, new activities, new extracurricular projects, things of that nature. And it's the substance of that, it's the quality of that, it's the veracity of that that I think will determine whether a deferral letter will turn the admissions committee in your favor. So the first guide is from Thoughtco. I'll provide the links to these below. And the other one's from Forbes. Forbes was from 2018, and I still think it's relevant to this day. And then also this one's from 2021. So it's a little bit more updated. I don't think they really changed the strategy much. What you see here is actually great advice. So kudos to you, Alan Grove and Kristen Moon. You're giving great advice, and you guys should read this kind of stuff if you're really serious about doing the best you can for a deferral situation. I'll start with Thoughtco. The key takeaways right here, responding to a college deferral. If you have new information that can strengthen your application, share it with the admission officials. This can include improved test scores, a new award, or new leadership position. Be positive, reaffirm your interest in the school, and don't let your anger and frustration at being deferred darken your letter. Be careful not to suggest that admissions officials made a mistake. Jeez, I can't believe that's a bullet point. I rarely have had this experience. I have to like rummage back. Yeah, I can see how students might come off as being critical and negative. So it's definitely something to note, but I've rarely seen this be an issue. And if it is an issue, I think it harkens to more of an issue with personality and stuff that maybe makes sense as to why you didn't get accepted. But hey, there's that bullet point. As with all written parts of your application, pay careful attention to grammar, punctuation, and style. Colleges want to admit students who write well. I can definitely agree with that. I don't really think they're going to penalize you too hard for it, but when you're doing a formal letter at this point, you do want to be as professional, as formal as possible. Remember that if college did not think you had the qualifications necessary to be admitted, you would have been rejected, not deferred. Essentially, the school is telling you that you have what it takes to get in, but it wants to compare you to the full applicant pool. You simply didn't stand out quite enough to be admitted with the early applicant pool. By writing to a college after being deferred, you have the opportunity to both reaffirm your interest in the school and present any new information that might strengthen your application. Okay. So you can read the rest of this. I think it's all great to kind of get a context of, but I want to jump to the examples and some of the feedback they give because I thought that was really insightful. So the sample letter number 1 from a deferred student. This sample letter would be an appropriate response to a deferment. The student, Caitlin, has a significant new honor to report to her first choice college, so she certainly should make the school aware of the update to her application. Note that her letter is polite and concise. She doesn't express her frustration or anger. She doesn't try to convince the school that it has made a mistake. Instead, she reaffirms her interest in school, presents new information, and thanks the admission officer. Okay, let's read through it. Dear Mr. Carlos, normally you might have someone who's maybe your like regional admission officer to send this to. Other times a general statement is Dear Undergraduate Admissions of the University of Georgia. You know, that's simple. You could just start that way. I'm writing to inform you of an addition to my University of Georgia application. Although my admission for early action has been deferred, I am still very interested in UGA and would very much like to be admitted, and therefore wish to keep you up to date on my activities and achievements. I love this intro. Just straight to the point. What I hear more often than not, like a very common trope that I see is, while I wasn't admitted, I remained determined to blah, blah, blah. Like, while I was disappointed to the blah, 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 I remained steadfast and determined as it is my number one choice. You're like, there's a lot of guides out there that tell you to write that way. And as a result, I see them as just cookie cutter intro builds. So when I see something that's very direct like this, I like it. The downside to me here is that I'm very, very interested in UGA. There's a difference between you're my number one, still my top choice, and I'm still very interested. I don't want to go too far because it becomes the cliche that every advisor gives you. Okay. But I don't want to be kind of on the lower end here, what I feel of I'm still very interested, very interested. So you got to find a way to be somewhere in the middle of that where you want to continue. Maybe, for example, you say that UGA is still the top of my list, is on the top of my priorities. And it's something that I want to give my all to, or something like that, as opposed to saying the generic phrase, which I think we're going to run into in another example. Earlier this month, I participated in the Siemens competition in math, science, technology in New York City. Siemens is huge. It's really, really big. This is for like the grandmaster students. So I like that she's starting off strong with her update. My high school team was awarded a $10,000 scholarship for our research on graph theory. The judges consisted of a panel of scientists and mathematicians led by former astronaut Dr. Thomas Jones. The award were presented at a ceremony over 2,000 students, blah, blah, blah. And I was extremely honored to be recognized alongside the other winners. This detail right here, the judge of a former astronaut, is not really that necessary. Instead, what I would have done is probably detailed more of the role she played as part of her team, as part of the team that was gifted the award, that was awarded the scholarship. I was in charge of blah, blah, blah. And it was through that process that I learned the deeper skills of doing this, connecting with this, and compiling the research of the academic blah, blah, blah for the last 20 years to do this. Right. So if she gave a little bit more details like that, rather than kind of flexing, look who gave me the award, could have been more interesting. More information on this competition can be found through the Siemens Foundation website. You don't really need to submit something like that. I think at the highest of levels, Siemens is just in academia known to be something super duper strong. So that wasn't really a useful thing. And then she ends, thank you for your continued consideration of my application. Sincerely, Caitlin. Okay, so what I would have done is I would have added one more paragraph. I would have taken out the Siemens Foundation website link, and instead I would have put in one more paragraph of a why UGA. And I wouldn't just, because you know how when you apply, there's a lot of supplemental essays that ask about why college. I don't want you to be repetitive. If you already wrote a why college, then when you write this next why college part in the end of your deferred letter, you need to make it a little bit different. And the trick to that, I think, is to base your difference of why you want to go to college on the update you provided. So let's say you did the Siemens and you're very competitive, you went into graph theory. Maybe that then can align with some further research you did about UGA's math department and how they have a history and a tradition of competitive math, blah, 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 that leads blah, blah, blah. Do you see how now you're building a connection? Your new update is connecting you to yet another reason, a more specific reason why you want to go to UGA. If you ended the essay like that, Caitlin, I think this would have been probably the most ideal for me. Straight to the point, maybe a little bit stronger as to your commitment to the school at the top. Strong update. If you have other updates, it'd be nice to add too. Maybe another paragraph of maybe some of your student leadership and new projects. Maybe there's a spring palooza that you're now spearheading and that you hope to create into like a cultural market that all the other clubs can kind of umbrella under, and some big forms of projects and leadership. And then last but not least, a specialized why you want to continue, why you've seen even greater reasons why you want to go to the school. And that would have been to me the ideal. Their discussion, Caitlin's letter is simple and to the point. Given how busy the admission office will be between December and March, being brief is important. I agree with that. It would reflect poor judgment if she were to write a lengthy letter. Okay. That said, Caitlin could strengthen her letter slightly with a few tweaks to her opening paragraph. Currently, she states that she is still very interested in UGA and would very much like to be admitted. Since she applied early action, admission officers can assume that UGA was among Caitlin's top choice schools. That's not true. I see a lot of students doing early actions because they're safety buffers. So that's not necessarily always true. If so, she should state this. Also, it doesn't hurt to briefly state why UGA is a top choice school. I love this advice that they're giving. Okay. She should state that while it's not always true, I just said, but I see the argument here. You could say, given I chose it to be my early action because you can clarify the reason why it was an early action choice to you because it was a top choice for her. I like the idea of that. Now I'm thinking about it. I might have to recommend that to some of my students. Also, it doesn't hurt to briefly state why UGA is a top choice school. Again, this is important, but don't say the generic phrase. I think it's in the example, and actually it is in the example below. We'll see. As an example, her opening paragraph could state, although my admission to early action has been deferred, UGA remains my top choice. And no, Do not do this. This is so common. When I read this, I feel like the student isn't being genuine and the student is just going through the routine. It's cookie cutter build. Um, so don't do this. In spirit, you should do that. Just try to say it in a more unique way. This is the cliche. Um, I love the energy and spirit of the campus, and I was truly impressed by my visit to sociology class last spring. I love that. That's good. I'm writing to keep you up to date on my activities and achievements. So I love all this, but do not do this. Every student will see this guide and write it like this. And I'm telling you, I glaze over it. Let's read the second example. Laura applied to Johns Hopkins University. By the way, it's Johns Hopkins. Okay, there's an S there. Like a lot of students misspell, or parents misspell Stanford. They put a D in there. Stanford. John Hopkins. You guys know how to spell your school. So Johns Hopkins. Through early decision program, and she was deferred. She had a few significant updates to her record, so she wrote a letter to the admission office. Dear Mr. Burney, last week, I learned that my application for early decision at Johns Hopkins was deferred. As you can imagine, this news was disappointing to me. Johns Hopkins remains the university I'm most excited about attending. This is well written. This is saying the same thing, but trying to flip it around or trying to do derivations of it in a different way. So I'd be happy with this. I'm not too happy with the news was deferred, but I like this part right here. Instead of saying remains my top choice, it's remains the university I'm most excited about attending. I love that. I visited many schools during my college search, and Johns Hopkins program in international studies appeared to be a perfect match for my interests and aspirations. I don't like that. It's perfect for me. It's ideal for me. I think she could have just kept it very professional right there. I'm most excited to attend. To that end, I'm excited. I want to continue to offer all that I can in endeavors and provide the following updates in hopes that I can showcase my continued actions and growth to meet the standards and prepare for the rigors that Johns Hopkins, something like that would have been better. Okay. This part right here, I also love the energy of Homewood campus. It fell flat for me. So I want to thank you and your colleagues for the time you put in concerning our application. Unnecessary. Just get to the point. After I applied for early decision, I received a couple more pieces of information that I hope will strengthen my application. First, I retook the SAT in November, and my combined score went from a 1330 to 1470. That's a huge bump. That's a huge update. Granted, what are you doing early decision to Johns Hopkins with a 1330? You're like at the very bottom of the pool. Well, obviously it depends on the other factors, right? But in my demographic and in my context, the 1330 is there's no way you're getting in. But even a 1470 is kind of, to be frank, on the low end for Johns Hopkins early decision. But the fact that at least in her case, she went from 1330 to 1470, I'm assuming she has a different socioeconomic demographic situation. That's significant. The College Board will be sending you an official score report soon. You don't have to indicate that as well. You could just tell them what you got and that you're going to update them with the score. Not that the College Board will send it to you shortly. No. Also, I was recently elected to be the captain of our school's ski team, a group of 20 students who compete in regional competitions. As captain, I will have a central role in the team's scheduling, publicity, and fundraising. I've asked the team's coach to send you a supplemental letter of recommendation that will address my role within the team. Okay, so being chosen as team captain of a sport is cool. I think like what you then say about it is kind of self-explanatory of what a typical captain does. Maybe if it was a team captain that situation where the team was also vying to go to nationals or junior Olympics or something, that could be a different story. But just saying scheduling, publicity, funding, it's pretty basic to me. Interesting that she's going to provide a letter of recommendation from a teacher or from like a supplemental letter of recommendation. Make sure that you clarify what is allowed, because some of the deferred, the colleges that defer, they will say sometimes don't send us any other letters, just an update or something like that. So you don't want to be forcing a letter onto them if they explicitly said not to. So Johns Hopkins, I can't remember off the top of my head. I guess it's allowed. Let's see the discussion here. Laura has a good reason to write to Johns Hopkins University. The 110-point improvement on her SAT score is significant. If you look at this graph of GPA, SAT, ACT data from admissions to Hopkins, you'll see that Laura's original 1330 was on the lower end of the acceptance students range. Her new score, 1470, is nicely in the middle of the range. Again, depends on your socioeconomic, demographic background, where you come from, what your high school competitive level is, etc. 1470 to me, with some of the kind of typical students that I work with in Southern California, it's kind of on the lower end, to be frank. Um, I'd argue, I think I phrase it as to me, it's more of like the bottom 50 percentile of a competitive early decision student to a rank 15 plus school like Johns Hopkins. Anyways, Laura's election as captain of the ski team may not be a game changer on the admission front, but it does show evidence of her leadership skills. That's true. Especially if her application was originally light on leadership experiences, this new position may be significant. Now that I think about that, that's actually a great thought there. So if you didn't have a lot of leadership and here comes this leadership experience, you should probably emphasize that leadership element. But that's not, I don't think that's, to me, like I don't think that's too significant. I think like at the highest level, when you're looking for updates, they tend to be like national competitions. They tend to be big local community engagement events and things like that. Team captain is kind of on the bottom 50 percentile for me, but it's still good. I'd still take it. I'd still say add that to your ingredients of what you want to update a different school with. Finally, Laura's decision to have supplemental letter of recommendation sent to Hopkins is a good choice, particularly if her coach can speak to the abilities that Laura's other recommenders did not. Yeah, you're opening up yet another potential for a good signal. The letter of recommendation could also be a bad signal. You can check out my other video about bad teacher recommendations. But yeah, let's see the mistakes to avoid. The following letter illustrates what you should not do. Ooh, that's interesting. Brian, naughty Brian. Let's see. To whom it may concern, I'm writing in regards to my deferral for admission to Syracuse University for the fall semester. I received a letter earlier this week informing me that my admission had been deferred. I would like to urge you to reconsider me for admissions. Yeah, it's a little pushy right there. As you know from my previous submitted admission materials, I am a very strong student with an outstanding academic record. Oof. If you're leaning on that, and then that's why you're frustrated, or that's why you don't understand why you didn't get accepted. Why didn't I get accepted? I had strong grades and test scores. Then you are missing the whole point of holistic admissions. And this further just re-ingrains or like re-emphasizes kind of your ignorance to that. So that's not a good starting point. Since I submitted my high school transcript in November, I've received another set of mid-year grades, and my GPA has gone up from 3.3 to 3.35. Jesus, what school are you applying? Syracuse? That's still low for Syracuse. In addition, the school newspaper of which I'm assistant editor has been nominated for a regional award. That sounded a little too distant. Kind of reminds me of that Office thing, the TV show. Like, you're the assistant manager, you're the assistant to the regional manager. Like, this feels distant. The regional award was given to your newspaper, of which you're an assistant editor. Instead, what I would have asked him to do is, as an assistant editor, what did you do? What did you do for in terms of layout and editing, or I don't know, topic selection, or whatever you did, and how that then played a critical role in ultimately receiving this regional award on behalf of the newspaper at your school. So the phrasing of that could have been a bit stronger. Frankly, I'm somewhat concerned about the status of my admission. Don't ever say that. I have a friend at a nearby high school who's been admitted to Syracuse through early admissions, yet I know that he was somewhat lower GPA than mine and has not been involved in many extracurricular activities. This is what everyone thinks, every parent thinks, but you can't think this way. Remember, the holistic admissions incorporates so much more than grades and activities. There's tags. This sounds like you're frustrated, and it's not a good look. Although he is a good student, and I certainly do not hold anything against him, I'm confused about why. Yeah, when you're confused, when you're saying you look confused, it's not a good look. I think I'm a far stronger applicant. Clearly, you are a more egotistical applicant. That's as much as you're proving right now at this. This is not a good strat. I'd very much appreciate it if you could take another look, yada, yada, yada. I don't really think we need to understand much else about this. Let's go to the other one. So this is Forbes. Forbes has tons of ads. If anyone is listening at Forbes, you guys have too many ads on your website, like to the point where it is detrimental to click on your website. So just my feedback there. Anyways, when you apply for colleges, you tend to expect 1 or 2 answers, yada, yada, yada. Let's go to what to do when deferred. Okay, so this is some good advice for my initial read. Let's see if a deeper read keeps that true. Decide if the college is still your top choice. If you get that deferral notice, it's time to reevaluate your options. Think if anything has changed since you first applied for early admission to your dream school? Is it still your top choice? Is another university looking like a better fit for you now? Yeah, these are all good. You should look at your college list, and what I recommended in my early results what to do video previously, it's you should start thinking about what signals the result is giving you. um, Sometimes I use a early with my students and particularly the parents to kind of get them to understand how truly rigorous and difficult it is to get into some of these schools. Like, I think it's after the earlies that a lot of parents tend to realize, oh, it's not as easy as I thought it'd be for my son or daughter. And then that then opens a door to a bit more of a robust college list discussion. So readjusting college list, it comes into early decision too. But generally speaking, if you're deferred, you still have an interest in the school, you'll still want to give it a shot, then don't worry about whether it's still your dream school or not. Like, go through the deferral process, because going through the deferral process and putting in decent effort is going to defeat 50-60% of the other deferred students along with you. Because I wager, I'm guesstimating around 50-60% are not going to do some sort of action for their deferred, or they're not going to put in good quality effort into the deferred. So just by committing to just doing the best you can in deferred, even though it's not a dream school or is a dream school still, it doesn't matter. You're going to have an advantage. So moving on, keep in touch. Sometimes the university might defer you because they want to see more information from you, like test scores or senior year grades. It might also help to find someone who can help you who can write you another letter of recommendation. That's true. If you can continue to look for more recommendation letters, if they allow, note that also you're going to get regular applications. You're going to get waitlisted in March. Letter of recommendation requests are still good for those as well. So there's multiple reasons why you want to just continue to look for good rec letters if you see them. Reach out to a supervisor at an internship or a coach who can add new information to your application. Fair enough. You can also consider updating anything that was either written incorrectly or not written well in your initial application. However, since you don't want to be overwhelming the colleges with more information, it's best to seek independent counsel to help you determine what is necessary. Talk to your school guidance counselor or solicit advice from an independent college counselor, and they can help you send in the required materials. Yeah, I've been doing this. I've had some students and parents reach out to me, hey, my daughter didn't get accepted early. Can you review this? And then I've gone through a couple of those and I've said, here's what I think was weak on the application. For me, most of it has to do with essays, not necessarily incomplete or incorrect, like written stuff on your application. So maybe that's the case, but that's rare for me. Before sending anything in, make sure to research to see if the college allows any additional materials. Yes. Always abide by the rules. If they say, do not send us an extra letter of recommendation, and then you go in and go, oh, by the way, here's an extra letter of recommendation, please review it. It's not a good look. Write a deferral letter. Okay, so this is where they're going to teach you how to write a deferred letter. Let's see their advice. The deferral letter needs to convey why you should be considered for admission. This letter should be a one-pager and compelling. Time is of the essence, and the letter needs to be sent right away. I agree with the one-pager. You may have a lot. And one of the tricks that I teach my students is if you have a one-pager and you can't seem to make it fit, just reduce the margins, the bezels on your side of the pages, left and right. So the left-hand margin, right-hand margin, normally for Google Docs and Word Docs is 1 inch. So reduce that to 0.5 inches and you got yourself like 20-30% more font real estate. Or at least that's what it feels like. So keeping it to one page, I agree with. I want it to be one page. Have I seen 2-pagers successfully get through a deferred? Yes, I have. So it's like a page and then like 2-3 paragraphs at the top. So a page and a third. So a page and a half. Have I seen a 3-page deferral? No. I don't think I ever even entertain going to 3 pages. So at most, to me, a page is ideal. Page and a half if you really can't seem to fit it and you have good content that warrants it. What should it include? It should include why you are still highly interested in attending in this university and why it's still your top choice. If accepted, you'll certainly attend. Do not write that. If I'm accepted, I will absolutely attend. You remember I told you at the beginning, it's such a cliche. Learn how to say it in a non-cliche way. Don't say this unless you truly mean it. Be direct and be clear with your message. So one thing I want to note, why are you still highly interested in attending university? I told you the technique that I would ask to make more unique and more compelling is to relate your why college, your new why college reasons to your updates. So your updates could be, as I mentioned, the Siemens competition of math and how you want to then you got into that kind of community and that kind of um, experience, and how that's connected, and you connected that deeper to the school of UGA. The other thing could be maybe you did a campus visit, and it's in your campus visit that you gleaned a lot more insightful things about the social experience there, the studentship there, the activism there, and how that connects with you in a more personal way. So try to talk about why you're still interested in the university based on as much of the updates that you provide. Elaborate on the impressive things you have accomplished since you applied. Discuss the accomplishments or accolades you've received in recent months. Tell them what you've been up to. Make your candidate profile stronger. This is really the challenge. I think the biggest issue is not how to write it, because those are kind of superficial and you could be coached and you can research enough on that. Instead, I think where most parents and students kind of feel where they falter with the deferral process is they just don't have updates. They just don't have updates they think is worth talking about. Or after they applied, they literally just stopped doing things and just focused on grades and test scores. I think a lot of my time working with deferred cases is built is on how can we provide updates that are worthy. So can I start on something now? And my answer would be yes, you can start on something now if you have something to show for it by end of January. I typically ask for deferred to the window of when you want to basically send a deferred update letter is end of January, beginning of February. Schools sometimes will have specific deadlines, so obviously there's that. But yeah, I think it's how good should an update be? Can I start an update now? What if I don't finish the update activity by end of January? Those are the kinds of things that we typically deal with more, at least I deal with more. Moving on, Moon Prep students submit a detailed student resume and LinkedIn profile. You don't need a LinkedIn, guys. Forbes. You don't really need a LinkedIn. I don't really think LinkedIn is that in. If you have recent developments since you've submitted your application, update LinkedIn with pictures, videos, and documents. Are you guys sponsored by LinkedIn or something? Why are you guys trying to push LinkedIn so much? I really have not experienced a lot of students doing the LinkedIn kind of thing. I don't mind it. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think I just don't think it's necessary. Then include link with your deferral letter. Go beyond blah, blah, blah. Add pictures, relevant research papers, and video to showcase your accomplishment activities. Do not add pictures into your deferral letter. Okay, it's meant to be a formal letter with fonts describing your words describing your updates. Don't add pictures. Reiterate why this college is a perfect fit for you. Don't say perfect fit, guys. You guys are the perfect fit for me. You guys are the ideal fit for me. Ideal is not bad. But when you say perfect fit, it feels cheap. It feels like cheap love. It doesn't feel like deep, retrospective, introspectively understood and comprehended like love. It's cheap love. You're perfect for me. I don't really like seeing that, and I usually tell my students to take that out and change it. Do not restate items you have already mentioned in your personal statement or supplemental essays unless you have updates to them and you have to provide context, and then also be specific. So how to write deferral letters. Oh, nice little infograph, maybe some canva.com. Convey your interest, tell them what's new, update LinkedIn. You don't really need to do that, in my opinion. Explain the perfect fit. Don't say perfect fit, but explain how you've come to a greater understanding since your updates, because of your updates, of what more you connect with at the school and why you're more excited for then the opportunities that are subsequently related at that school. Let's read the deferral example from Forbes. Dear Mr. Smith, I am writing to inform you of an addition to my Harvard University application. Although last week I learned that my application was deferred, I am still very interested in attending Harvard University, and we're honored to be admitted. It's a little bit on the weaker side. Still very interested, would be honored. Right? I'm excited, as what the other one was before I felt was a lot better. Therefore, I wish to update you on my recent activities and achievements. It's still on the good side, though. It's simple and to the point. So at least he's got that going for him. As mentioned in my common application, I've spent the last 2 summers performing research at Mercy Hospital and Medical Center. I've worked closely with my mentor collecting clinical data to show the correlation between diabetes and non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. I am pleased to report that I presented my findings at the North Carolina chapter scientific meeting to November 2018. I was honored by to be highlighted at an event with almost 500 attendees. My research paper, presentation, and photos for the event can be found on my LinkedIn page. Okay, in that case, LinkedIn providing a photo presentation, that's pretty cool. I'm cool with that. Do you have to make it a LinkedIn? No, but I think that's pretty cool. This semester, I'm taking a full course load to challenge myself academically. My class schedule includes, I'm not really impressed by this, dude. You know, you're applying to Harvard and taking on a full course load of these kinds of things is kind of expected of you, to be honest. So is this an update for me? Maybe if he had a history, like in his application, he did show some struggle with academic rigor, then I understand. But if that's the case, you're not really a Harvard student to me in the first place, unless you have like really insane tags on the other end of the holistic assessment. I'm currently on track to receive an A in each of my classes. I've exhausted all the advanced courses at my high school and have taken all 7 AP math and science courses available. I'm not interested in that. I don't find that to be appealing to me. Instead, what I would suggest is perhaps showing how you applied this to some of the higher advanced courses to like deeper endeavors. Or personally, I think like it would be better if you just went on to edx.org and start taking specialized major related courses. I think that could show more of your pursuit of IQ beyond your school opportunities. Obviously, maximizing all the opportunities is important. But my point is, if it's for Harvard, it's kind of expected. I look forward to the opportunity to continue my research at Harvard University in the future. This is where he could have expanded. I think if he did his research and found that Harvard has certain types of institutions and labs and professors that are working on the frontiers of what he's just encroached upon from his own experience, how he can then translate that and couple that with even yet another reason why he wants to go, because there's perhaps undergraduate clinical / research joint mentorship programs that he could take advantage of in a clinical setting, in a hospital setting, much like his Mercy Hospital Medical Center experience. Maybe there could have been a bit of stronger why Harvard specific update reasons, and that would have been pretty cool. There's a bunch of deferred FAQs, and again, I'll provide the link to that below. But I thought that I would try to do this for my deferred students. If you read the guides online, some of them are actually really good, and then some of them you've heard my opinion about. If there's any other questions, please feel free to put a comment below. I try my best. We're a small community. I'm not the most popular YouTuber, I know, but I think there's like a silver lining to that, because I get to meet with students on a one-on-one, answer their questions, and I enjoy doing that. So anyways, thank you guys for watching all the way up until the end. And if you guys have a recommendation for more things you want to suggest, or videos you want, topics you want me to post up, feel free to let me know. Alrighty, guys. Adios.